Ready?
So tell you a bedtime story. That's how it feels.
Okay, so what do you want to start with?
I think, like, how the boat came about, really. There's a lot of young chefs, cooks, that would ask the question, how do you get again? How do you find your own place? How do you have a restaurant? You've got to be putting yourself out there, but also it's different for everyone, you know? I've always wanted my own restaurant, work in different restaurants. You know, I moved around quite a bit, and you know, a lot of people would say that's a negative because you need to learn from one person, get a good grounding from that chef. But I've always been in a rush. I've always wanted to just get on and you know, learn as much as I could. And whether you master one area in a kitchen or learn one area in a kitchen, you felt right, I wanted to do something else, it wasn't for you, whatever. As long as you leave on good terms, and you know, there's no problem with that because you're still bettering yourself in the areas that you want to better yourself in. Someone says I'm autistic. I don't think I'm autistic. My parents' attitude to work was what made me want to be accountable for something. And it wasn't even, at that time, wasn't being a chef in a restaurant, it was being responsible for something. Parents were teachers, they met as teachers, wanted to do something different, wanted to get out of, I guess, the 9 to 5, set up their own companies. There's a story about my sister mimicking my mum on the phone, being like, shush, 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 business, business, business. Because she's seen my mum do that. You know, we've always been around them just kind of coming and going and being busy. And of course, it's quality time. I was lucky to have the two of them around us, but they were, you know, setting up a life. So the idea of having something of my own and nurturing something of my own was ingrained in me, I think, from an early age. Once I solidified that I was going to be a cook, that was when, like, now I want my own restaurant. Felt if I just stayed somewhere, then I'd never get to where I wanted to go. I guess the whole story of finding the boat was, I was part of the opening team of the Lickfold in West Sussex for Tom Sellers. Amazing pub, fully kitted out as you can imagine, the kitchen of dreams. Didn't quite get on with the head chef. Whether I just felt I was, you know, coming from London, being like, you know, this is wrong, I can do this, you shouldn't be in here cooking, you should be out there speaking to the guests, you should be, you know, and I was just like, in the background on the stove, being like, this isn't right. We had our disagreements, and I just thought, if I think I can do this, then I need to go and try and do it. So I moved back to the Midlands. I was cooking on the agency, saving money, buying vat pack machines, blenders, stacking my dad's garage for all this kit that I was buying because I was.
What were you buying it for?
Just because I had the money. I had the money, storing it because I knew that I needed to start getting things together in case I could get my own project going. And it was kind of my own project, whether that was cooking for people privately, whether that was doing pop-ups. I was working non-stop.
So you were buying the kit before you even had a building?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I wanted it. I wanted something. I've always had my eye, and like I did in the early days in the Michelin Guide, who's cooking well, who's got what accolades. I was doing that in Rightmove, like what restaurants are sale, how much is it, where is it? So Jewellery Quarter in Birmingham, I just missed out on a site that's now 1,000 trades, which is wicked, which would be cool. There's one further down the hill called The Vaults, and that one I was in negotiation with that for about 9-10 months. It got to the point where it's like, right, this is how much money you're gonna need, and it was obscene.
What was it?
I think the rent then was gonna be about 70 grand. The place was empty, so there wouldn't have been any help from the landlord. You would have had to kit the whole thing out. Before you even started to buy anything, we're looking at about 130, 140 grand.
Did that surprise you when you first realised how much it was going to cost?
Yeah, I shit myself. And I spoke to my dad after, and he was just like, it's too much for you to risk. And he was obviously worried because he knows what I'm like. He's just like, yeah, you want things now, and you're rushing when you don't need to rush anything. Back onto Rightmove and other websites trying to find something. And I was getting close to giving up. It was like late at night, getting back from working around the corner at Hawcross Hall at the time. And saw the boat was for sale. I think it was on a business site, I think. It would have been a business site. It was on a business site because it was a going concern. You're buying the business rather than just buying the empty site. And I knew about the boat because we've been here for my nana's 70th birthday, I think it was. I've grown up in Lichfield, so you always know the boats had good food. It was known for being, you know, okay pub. I'm sitting on what is now table 20 with all of my family and my nana celebrating her birthday, and then, I mean, years later, I'm bloody moaning how unhappy I am with the decor. But yeah, so before I saw it, I was like, it's a shithole. And it's a big old site, it's going to be fucking loads of money, it's going to, you know. I thought I would just go and have a look, do you want to come with me to have a look? Walking in, go around to the left to meet one of the owners. There's like a little desk around the corner with a laptop on it. The owner's dog, big Labrador, was just on the floor. And the front, when you walk in, there was a big, like a doctor's waiting room, is the only way I can describe it, in a really rubbish dentist. By seeing how busy they were. And I thought those 150 covers for lunch, I could whittle that down to at least 60 that would want a better quality offering. I spoke to the old man and I said, what do you reckon?
What did he say?
Fuck shithole. I think that was him putting it politely.
How much was it up for?
$500,000. No, it was over that, because we got it for less than that. That was just the building. And I wanted 200 grand for the business. Because it was so out of my reach, it would have been contacts that my old man knew. That was the only way of going to make it work. One day my old man was like, right, let's talk about this. He said he might be able to make it work. It might be an investment that he wants to take anyway. Which kind of shocked me really, because he's not a very emotional person. He doesn't speak about how he feels. He's, you know, even the other day he was like, well done for the award, well done. I was like, oh, cheers mate. There's no, you know, he shows it in his own way, you know. He started taking the lead then. For me discussing with the owners of the boat, we were sitting in these meetings and he was then starting to take ownership of it, I guess. Which is right, because I had fucking no idea what I was doing. He's been negotiating contracts for 30 years. He was all over it. And I was like, at points I was like, fucking hell, I just walk out and be like, fucking hell, what? Like I'm lost, you know? Felt like it went on for months and months. Meetings with solicitors, there was two parts of the purchase, the building, the business, two separate departments in the same solicitors, transferring of employees through 2P. Like my mind was blown. I'd come in and there would be staff being like, oh, you're my new boss now, aren't you? I said, well, I don't know about that. I'm just here. And it kicked the wind out of you a little bit. So November 16, as part of the takeover, because it was taking so long, the owners were about to pull out apparently. We said, or the solicitors said, why don't you go in as a management contract, start working for them for a profit share. So when the deal's done, you'll look at revenue, you'll take a profit share, and then keys are handed over. I said, that sounds like a great idea. Because I was just kind of hanging around, really. I was working elsewhere. I said, I just want to get in and get sorted out. So essentially, I was an employee at that point, this management time. But the owners were like fine with me just starting to move things around, and because they were happy. If I was actively doing stuff, they knew that then the deal's nearly done because I'm in here. So it's good for them because it was a sure thing, essentially, rather than being like, I wonder if it's going to go through or not. Big white Polar fridges, I was dragging those out. I was changing the menus, I was trying to organise staffing, I was changing suppliers. Like it was bloody cheesy mushrooms on toast, and I remember the lad that was working here, I was like, I'm not cooking that. Fish and chips, gammon, egg and chips. It was a roadside eatery. And I can't be like, you know what, sod it, close the doors, I'm going to change it, and you can come and eat the food I want to do, because I just paid 200 grand for this business. I had to keep that revenue coming in. I didn't really think about the finances, if I'm honest. Even as a chef, I think you're always seeking approval. There's got to be that sort of, that reward feeling. Any creative has that in them. It's not a bad thing. It's just, you know, you're doing something, you want to be proud of what you're doing, you're proud of it, you would expect other people to be proud of it as well. 10th of February 2017, that was my first day officially owning the business, yeah. The one thing I do remember from that day, and it's weird, it's such a weird thing, the 9th, obviously the evening, so after service, I pulled their card machines out and I plugged mine in. They left 50 quid in the till for me as float, and then they left. I remember the night at the 10th, just at my parents' house. I went home with the cash drawer, and I remember just sitting in my room with the cash drawer, just being like, what the fuck have I done? Yeah, I think before you never really think about it because I was so busy trying to make it right and trying to get things in place, and then it did just hit me like a ton of bricks. I reflect on how dark some days have been. Absolutely. And that was a dark day. Even though you just got your own business, everything you could ever dream of, irrelevant of the state it was in. Like, this is, your baby now. There was still a lot of grief. 14 years this business had run before I took over, and irrelevant of what you're doing, people don't like change. I was trying to do something really different far too soon as well. I'd worked in London. I worked at Michelin star restaurants. I can make this a star restaurant. And I was doing that while still serving gammon, egg and chips. I was so hell-bent on getting it changed and moving it, that I think I was blinded by what I was actually knocking out. I think I was slightly deluded, to be honest. But it was delusion and shitting myself that this would fall apart. Trying to get people to stay interested. That's what I was scared of, people losing interest. Fish and chips went off the menu. Why is fish and chips come off the menu? There's nothing here I like. Cheesy mushrooms on toast are still a prominent, factor. So I was trying to jazz it up a little bit, and then it wasn't good enough because it was different. I was serving pig head terrine on a pig skull because I thought that was cool and there's something going on a bit different. And there were people being like, do you really think it's acceptable to put this on a table with a vegetarian? I could have done anything and it wouldn't have been right. I was getting so much grief, like, sod it, I'm going to break it and change it and break it and change it. We're not going to work like that anymore, we're going to work like this. You're not doing that anymore, we're going to work like this. So there's so many things that were happening that I had to stamp out. But you're stamping out someone's way of working and they didn't want to do it anymore because that's not what they signed up for. The majority 17, we were trying to cajole the custom into trying the new dishes. I cut the menu down to 15 starters, 15 mains, 15 desserts, and then put a tasting menu on. Braised barley, pheasant, braised belly, pig cheek. I just went back to just doing like really fucking basic food and then trying to elevate it. And there wasn't enough choice. I was constantly getting, there's not enough choice. There was people that believed in what I wanted to do. We got local awards, we got like independent restaurant in Staffordshire, and still trying to introduce tasting menu didn't really fly. And I was out of control, trying to be everything for everyone. And at that point I was like, I'm gonna have to change something. I'm gonna have to do something. Closed for 10 days. And we just went to town on the kitchen. New floor, drains, pass, window into the dining room to open it up, ripped all the carpets out because they were all matted and horrible. It was horrendous, the wallpaper, see the photos, it looked like Chinese New Year in that dining room. It was strange, reds and golds, and there was so much to change, like so much to change. And even then I didn't feel like I could be like, right, this is what we're doing now, because we've got Christmas parties, we've got people pre-booked, we've got the groups of people that would come in, not spend a lot, but I need them to be coming in still.
How did people react when they walked in after the renovations?
Loved it. There was loads of comments saying it looks like you're walking into a London restaurant. The boat in was back and new kitchen, we had some more staff join us, people that wanted better food, chefs that would want to cook nicer things. I felt a new lease of life, trying to shake off what I'd been before, and it's frustrating to have to feel like you're trying to shake off what something was before. Even then there was just some real shit times. Like we were doing like 80 covers on a Saturday night, and there was 3, potentially 4 chefs in the kitchen, and it was just carnage. I had Michelin come in and inspect 2 months after signing the contract, so mid-17. Before renovation, Michelin came in and had an 8 off the menu. Booked under Peter, still got the handwritten cheque.
Why have you still got the cheque?
Huh?
Why have you still got the cheque?
What, the order?
Yeah.
was Michelin. So we were constantly renovating things. The toilets were, I think, a builder had been in and just put a new light in or something. Not a builder gone in, but like someone had been in there, and obviously Michelin went into the toilet. And when they went, it's a big dirty footprint on top of the toilet. I was like, what am I trying to do? Like, really, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then they did announce, actually, he came up and had a chat with me. He goes, you got 2 minutes? And just gave me the Michelin card. I was like, fuck's sake, really? And I just said what I was trying to achieve and what I was doing. And they put me in a guide.
Did that validate that you were on the right track?
No, I didn't care. We were getting awards. We were like Independent Business of the Year, Gastropub. I think we went into Gastropub Guide. I had a wobble. I think must have been 19. When was it? Yeah, 19. I changed it. I wanted to change the branding. What am I about? What we're doing? Can I really be asked to do this anymore? Can I chase this dream? And it's not the Michelin star dream. It's the dream of having a successful restaurant that I'm proud of. And was it up to scratch? No. Was I attracting the right people? Probably not. So I was looking at it saying, you know what, fuck it. Turn it into a brasserie. Turn it into an eatery. That's what it was. They had the numbers before, I'll do the same again. And I'll just make some money and be fucking done with it. I felt we were getting there, but very slowly. But I didn't know where there was. The amount of work that's gone into getting this to a sufficient standard. It's mental. But into 2019, we were in a good place and changing it all the time.
For the better?
Always for the better. In my eyes, always for the better.
Then what happened?
Went into lockdown.